Joining me live is Sky News US analyst Michael Ware. Michael, thanks so much for your time. So recent polling of New Hampshire has shown Nikki Haley eating into Trump's lead, with one having her cut into single digits. Before Iowa, though, average polls in New Hampshire had Trump at 43% versus 30% for Haley, just under 6% for DeSantis. It still looks like Trump's to lose. What's your expectation next week?
Yeah, look, New Hampshire's going to be fascinating because, honestly, we could be rapidly approaching the end of the road of this entire nomination process. By the end of February, certainly by the first week of March, this could be all over, because there is only a narrow path for either Ambassador Nikki Haley or Governor Ron DeSantis to beat former President Donald Trump, to gain enough delegates. And when I say narrow path, I mean, it's not even a knife edge. It's a mouse walking across a piece of sewing thread. That's the only way that he could be beat. But we'll know in these next two primaries. So coming into New Hampshire next week, Nikki Haley is trailing former President Trump, but not by as much as anyone else has been in any other competition. It's anything between 6 and 12 percentage points. And a lot of the polls that told us that were taken before Chris Christie dropped out, and many of his voters may drift or expected to drift to Haley. Bottom line, in New Hampshire, we're looking to see whether President Trump gets over 50% of the vote, or whether Ambassador Haley can nudge over at least 30% of the vote to continue rolling on to what I suspect will be the definitive caucus or the definitive primary in South Carolina at the end of February. So, look, this is Donald Trump's primary, but the question is, how far can Ambassador Haley eat into his massive lead?
Yeah, and recent polling also suggests that President Joe Biden would struggle against any of the three remaining Republican candidates. But there's reports out that Biden's advisors are hopeful Donald Trump does win the GOP nomination, because they think, according to these reports that I've read, that President Biden has a better chance of beating him than Nikki Haley. Did you see that? And what's your reaction to that?
Look, that has been a lot of the thinking coming out of both President Biden's campaign and out of his White House. They would prefer a Biden-Trump matchup. Most of the country does not, but it does seem like we're careening towards that. So, Republican candidates are throwing around allegations that registered Democrats or independents, and there's a growing number of independents. There's almost more independents now than registered Democrats or Republicans. But there's allegations that Democrats are being herded to Republican primaries and caucuses to vote for Haley to chip away at Trump. Certainly that's what the Trump campaign is alleging. So look, it does appear that we're going to see a rerun of a Biden-Trump election. But, we're going to know that in the next few weeks. And look, that's a tough one. That's a tough one for Biden. One issue, however, that the Democrats will be relying on in a general election, especially against Trump, but even against Haley or DeSantis, is abortion, right? The right to choose or the right to life. That hasn't really become a spectre in these Republican primaries because no one really wants to be pinned down on it. But I can tell you now, that issue is going to be front and center of the general election coming from the Democrats. So abortion is yet to play its hand, as it did in the most recent midterm.
Okay, interesting. Michael Ware, thanks so much for your time. Have a great weekend.